Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston, and joining me as always is Musum.
Hello.
We are a quick plug for patreon.com/E1M1. It's our Patreon page. The ones are numbers. Get all the cool behind the scenes, early access stuff. A lot of it is me roping Moon into recording something slightly against his will. So if you want to hear about roguelikes and movies and music, and got an exclusive uncensored Outcast over there that goes up every week, go check that out. Patreon.com/E1M1. Misum, what have you been playing this past month?
Well, I've had a busy month, so I haven't had a ton of time for a lot of games, but I played 2 games a little bit and 1 game a lot. So
Okay.
we'll start with the little bits. I needed a break from my main game I was playing, and my friend told me of a method to grind 180 legendary chords in Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Oh, okay.
So I loaded that up, and I was at the very beginning of New Game Plus, and you can't do the grinding till the end of the game. And I thought, well, I'll play this a little bit and see how it goes. And as I started to play, I was like, oh, right, the menu system for this is terrible because they lost their UI people in this. And what I'd been saying on all these other podcasts about like open worlds, distance to interesting, like Xenoblade Chronicles is a horrible offender. You are like, I mean, they literally have a button that doesn't make you go faster. It just keeps you walking. Like
Yeah,
you press forward, you press this button, and then you let go, and your guy just goes until you press something else. Like,
yeah, we were talking about that with Sable during Game Club, where Sable had an interesting kind of distance to the thing you're going to get to. And you brought up the Xenoblade games of just like, look at that thing over there. You're going to be running for like literally a half an hour. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Let's do it. It looks great,
much.
But
it's I like the looks of Sable a little bit better than Xenoblade, but
yeah.
It also turns out like those Xenoblade chapters, like I started on like, I don't remember, chapter 3 or 4. Whenever you go, there's like whenever you get Von Dom and go through his story arc is kind of where I was for those who've played it. For those who haven't, that's probably chapter 3 or 4, but I'm not sure. But
okay.
I kind of like in a span of a couple hours, like nothing would attack me because I'm like level 80 and walking around level 30 creatures because it's New Game Plus.
Right.
So I kind of just immediately went through the chapters, and once I hit this point, it's like, well, here's 90% of the rest of your stuff. Because like I was missing a party member, and like the blades are registered to specific party members, and one of the party members' blades is story dependent, and they just gave me his blades all at once. So that was nice. And then I got sick of it and stopped playing it. I really just want Cosmos is all it comes down to.
Yep.
I think if I get Cosmos, I can shelve that game and be happy about it. Like I don't even have to use her at this point.
Right. You just need to have her in your inventory. You can kind of close that door.
Yeah. So then I loaded up Shin Megami Tensei V. I didn't play this one a ton because I keep thinking I need something I can just kind of grind in and wander around. This will be perfect. And then I load it up and I'm like, oh, right, I'm at a story-heavy moment. And like, it wasn't quite like Persona grade story-heavy moment, but it was like you got to walk around and talk to a bunch of people and then walk to the event. And then go through even more story stuff. And then you're going to go through a story dungeon that's going to last an hour or two. And then we're finally going to put you back out on like an open world, like kind of their map area, like you immediately start the game with.
Okay.
So it's cool. I don't know that I picked up on a lot of that story because I kept forgetting about it and turning it on and going, crap, I have to pay attention to this.
Right.
I didn't want something I had to pay attention to that closely.
Yeah.
But that game's still really great, and it's my fault for being in the wrong mindset when I go to it.
Yeah. Well, and so much of the intro of that game is, here's this giant open area. We're going to kind of go from, not boss to boss, but what are those, the big red like blocking things called?
Oh,
Not fissures, something like that. But like
yeah.
you're kind of pushing from one to another, and you're just kind of get over there to that area. And it's like, yeah, that's what I'm in the mood for. Let's do some of that.
Yeah. And I finally got back to one of those areas, but it took several hours to do it.
Wow.
And the story seems really cool. Like they're definitely doing something different with the main franchise story. But I just, as I said, I keep forgetting about it. Like the main gameplay loop is still excellent.
Right.
There's still a lot of cool things around it. I'm eager to really give that game a go, but I've been so pressed for time, and the reality is like I really just want to keep playing Horizon Forbidden West, which is I was saving because I've been watching your Twitter. I'm like, well, he's playing it too. So
yes, I wrapped up Tunic recently and finished that 100%, and I thought, boy, I should really get back because Forbidden West came out like the week, like a week or a couple of days before Destiny Witch Queen, and I was like, well, I gotta play Witch Queen. Like, come on. So after I'll talk about Witch Queen here in a little bit, but as soon as I was done with Tunic, it's like, look, I'm really enjoying Forbidden West. I really need to get to it, and I really need to do like the first big story beat, because Forbidden West starts really interestingly, where you got this little area, and it kind of very quickly opens up, and you kind of do that whole thing with Chain Scrape, which is like the first real big town you go to. And once you're done with that, number one, I really like how surly Aloy is at the beginning of this game, where she's just like, I need all of you to get out of my way so I can go, like, do this stuff, like this story stuff, like all of this, like, please help my town. I don't want to. Get out of my way. I really like all of that, but once you finish the kind of Chain Scrape intro stuff, the game is like, and here's your next mission, Death's Door. You should go do that. And I was like, yeah, but I could explore a whole bunch. So it's like, and there's like, very quickly you find, like, you climb up a giant mountain, you go to the top, and there's like a lens from something up there. I did this a long time ago. And they're like, well, there's 6 of those. What are you going to do? And I was like, well, I'm going to find all of those. Like, again, there has to be a great reward, which unfortunately there wasn't, but I liked climbing up those mountains. So when I got back to it, I thought, all right, I should just go do this Death's Door thing, because everybody that has played it has said, boy, that mission, huh? And I was like, okay, well, I should, before I get it spoiled, I should go do this thing. And boy, that mission, huh? Like,
yeah,
it's one of those things where, one of the things I liked a lot about the first game, and the thing I like about this game, is when it gives you story stuff, it gives you a lot of story all at once. Like, and it's not overwhelming, but it's not afraid to be like, here's a big story beat. Whoops, here's another one. Whoops, 2 more. Like, we're going to give you a whole bunch of stuff all at once that is all tied together, and it's obviously told very well, but like, that story mission was just like, here's the thing, here's a surprise, here's another thing, whoops, a twist. Like, there's just like, and at the end of it, I was just like, wow, okay, cool. I have so many questions now.
yeah.
And I have done a bunch of stuff after that. Like, I did the next big story mission, and after that, I don't want to spoil it, but the game is essentially like, and thus you do these 3 things. And I was like, okay, here's the big, like, go to the forest, go to the coast, go to the desert. And I'm like, okay, cool. I gotta go get these 3 story things. And right before we started recording, I finished the one in the desert. That's the one I did, the very first one. I got the thing, and the very last thing Aloy said as I was saving was, I should probably go bring this thing back to the person that asked for these things. and I should probably do these other things too. And I was like, oh, I want to go see what's going to happen. I have no time. Curses. So I got to do that tonight.
I love all the desert stuff. I love the NPCs there.
Really good. Really good. That lead NPC who's like the guy that's like, I need to go down there to go find these embers. And I was like, you're great. You're just a fun character in this game.
Yeah, I keep hoping like, well, okay, I can't say my hope because it'd be a spoiler. But let's just say in Death's Door you unlock a certain thing, and I keep hoping that character will go to that certain thing you unlock, and it hasn't happened yet. But I still have hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so those next three, like, so the game is like a little Metroidvania in that there are certain roadblocks it puts in your way, and like as you can probably guess from doing that first one, like just do those next three missions that it wants you to.
Yep.
Assuming you meet the level requirements, because you'll probably be miserable if you go under level.
Yeah, I think the hardest one is 24, and I think I just rolled over to 23, and the one I just did was 22, and I was like, I was doing, it's the normal video game thing. This is not a spoiler, but while you're doing this desert mission, you're kind of avoiding this very, very large robot, and I'm like, cool, I'm probably going to fight that thing later because it's big, and I certainly did. And that fight genuinely wasn't that bad, so I feel like I'm actually in a pretty good spot, kind of level-wise. Like, level-wise and skills and perks and stuff.
Well, in most of the... Like, in a way, I don't think the levels matter, but, like, I think it matters in terms of, like, your patience for how quickly you're going to die and what tools you have on hand.
Yeah, it seems more like a recommendation for your health and maybe like the amount of upgrades you've done to your armor and your weapons and stuff like that, rather than like going here as a 22 and a level 24 and you're doing 0 damage. Like, it's never really like that, which is I really appreciate. But like you were mentioning, go ahead.
I was just saying, you do so much damage when you knock important parts off of the robots' bodies anyway, so as long as you are playing in that methodology, like, you'll be fine.
Yeah, because I stick with the hunter bow usually that does tear pieces off of enemies, because like in the skill trees I've largely gone down the healing tree and then the ranged tree, and part of the ranged tree is and they all have like fancy names and I never remember what they are, because I know, like, I don't care about the food tree and I don't care about the override tree yet. Like, that stuff will come in time, but I have heavily spec'd into increasing your concentration, which for anyone that hasn't played it is like the slow down thing where you're aiming down sights, you click in the stick and it slows down time, and it's very easy to hit, you know, the what would be the soft squishy underbelly of a real animal, but this one is like a frost core that's going to explode after a couple of hits, which is always very satisfying.
Well, and so I've been really bad most of the game about it, and when I remember to use it, like, it's wonderful. Like, use your valor, like, abilities, like they are...
I use it so often, because the first one I went for and upgraded all the way to level 3 was the potion one, where I resist all status effects, I get more armor, and I regen health.
Nice.
And when you have it upgraded to the third one, it lasts for like a minute, maybe a little bit longer. Like, it lasts for a considerable amount of time. And anytime you get hit, you immediately start regenerating your health almost back to full immediately. Like, it's really, really powerful.
Maybe I need to try that one out. Like, for a long time I was using the invisibility one, because I just, even if it takes forever, I love doing stealth stuff in that game.
Yep.
And then the other one I've started to use recently is there's like a melee spear explosion ability. I don't remember which tree it's in, but like you press it and she hits the ground with her spear and you do, like, you know, a radius of damage. And that's
cool.
That's been nice for getting out of stuff, and it also does a pretty good amount of damage.
Nice.
I just forget about Valor constantly, unfortunately.
Yeah, I usually forget about it until I get, like, some huge boss smacks me with its tail, and I'm like, ah, yes, Valor. Right. The big potion.
Yeah.
Um,
Man, they
but
love throwing giant robots at you too, man. There are
yeah,
so many different. Like, there's one that I've just been afraid to go to, and I don't know why. I've fought almost all the others, and I just need to hunt this one down because I need his upgrade parts. But
oh
I
sure,
also keep thinking I'll hit a side quest that'll pit me against it because so far, like I've had a. They fairly quickly in the game are like, here, have this side quest. Now you have to kill a Thunderjaw, you know, the big one from the first
yeah,
game. And they do that with most of them. I just haven't run
haven't
into the
found that
one for
one
this
yet.
particular one.
Yeah. The one interesting thing though is, like you were mentioning earlier, one of the things I like a lot about this game is when you run across like one of those big red flowers on the wall or one of the metal flowers on the ground or something, Aloy will very quickly say like, I don't have the tool to deal with this right now. And the game will automatically on your map say blocked path, you don't have the right tool, whatever the specific message is. But it very much tells you like, and it will remind you like, here's a specific icon for you can't go further in here, but there's something cool that you need to go into later. And in the desert area, I got the reason why I did it the first was because I got I wanted to go get that upgrade, and once I got that, those icons cleared up on the map, and it was very much like, okay, now you can go check these things out. And now that I got it, I actually did a side quest where I had to go diving in and do like some small puzzles to get 3 keys. And after I got the 3 keys, minor spoiler, I got something called a shield caster, which just
that's neat.
deploys shields. And I was like, okay, well, that was definitely well worth it. But it's nice to see now that I've finished that mission, Aloy herself was like, well, now that I have this new tool, I bet there's a couple of cool places I can explore. And I'm like, yep, I bet there is. Let's go do it. So I really like that about the game where you don't have to remember, oh, this place is over here, I need to mark it on the map myself, or I need to like scour these areas again now that I have these upgrades. It's like, no, now that I have this thing, I can go do, this other thing to get this other upgrade. So that's been greatly appreciated.
I adore that feature. I think that's one of the things the game does best.
Yeah.
I do have to mention one thing that I severely dislike that I unlocked in the game.
Okay.
At some point, you will unlock basically an arena, right?
Okay.
Go here, do the thing, and then you have to fight robots. And the problem is the game, like when you're in the arena, you're kind of up on this ledge, and you can kind of map out what you want to do. And the second you jump in, all the robots know you're there. There's no stealth or anything. It's
okay.
you versus these robots in this somewhat enclosed area, and it is severely frustrating at times.
Right.
Especially when they put you in close quarters with some of the giant ones and they have backup, and you're just like, what are you expecting me to do? And occasionally
right.
they'll even force you to use not your weapons, but these specific weapons for the challenge. And
wow. Okay.
It was like, I feel like the game shines best when it lets you kind of mostly sneak around, occasionally get discovered, and then go hide again and lose everyone. And
yeah, you're like watching this field of enemies, and you kind of like knock off one of their back pieces, and it does like half of their health, and then you just hang out there until they investigate, and then maybe you give them the silent strike and kill them, and then kind of do that for a bunch. The only thing I really wish, and the thing I really miss, the enemies never get as close as I want them to when I throw a rock. And like, what I really want is I just want the whistling from Assassin's Creed, which is like, hey, it's me, doo-doo. Like, it's me over here. I'm a bird, caw. Like, I really want that thing. It's a little too easy in Assassin's Creed, because it's basically like, I'm over here, hey, I'm a guy. And then you just like pull them into the bushes and give them the stab. But I wish there was something a little bit more something that could pull somebody a little bit closer to you, which probably isn't the point of using the rocks, but that's how I want to use them.
Yeah, like it's the like sometimes like so when an enemy's like already kind of alerted to you, I've noticed it's a little glitchy with the rock paying
Yeah,
attention because sometimes the enemy's like, I want to pay attention to this, and you throw a rock, and maybe they'll say the dialogue, but they'll just stand there for like another 10 or 15 seconds, and
yeah,
it's
exactly.
the game definitely has some glitches.
Mm.
And like the arena in particular, by the way, will cause glitches.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I've like certain portions of the sound have disappeared on me
Oh,
during the
weird.
arena, and I've just like reloaded the game to make it come back.
Right. They have been patching it like crazy, which is great. Like I've seen like one or two patches every week, which is they've said like, oh, we're really working on the like graphics shimmering issue, and I'm like, I am not seeing that at all. I'm playing in performance mode, so like maybe that doesn't apply to me, but
Yeah,
I'm not
I'm
sure.
playing on the whatever the resolution mode,
Yeah,
and the game consistently looks gorgeous to me. Like it
yeah,
is
it's so good
most
looking.
most of the visual like issues are like maybe no, that's a different game. That was Sable. Sable had the floating stuff.
Yeah.
It's mostly like AI stuff, honestly, in this
Hmm.
game. Like characters pathing will get odd, or like a section of the sound effects will stop working, or something like that.
Yeah.
It is almost never something visual, and if it is something visual, it doesn't happen consistently.
Yeah.
Uh, which is good since, like in my opinion, the game's at its best like when you're looking at the environment that you're in and not
Hmm.
necessarily just looking at the icons on the map and trying to tick down the list, which a lot of that stuff is still fun, but I'm pretty far into the game and I probably need to do the next story mission because I'm like level 49 and the next story mission level is like 20 something.
Okay. So
I kind of
you're a lot like me, where it's like I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna like ping pong between the 15 different cool things on the way. I never ride mounts in this either because I'm just running around and just being like, oh look at this cool thing, oh look at that cool thing, ooh a
yeah.
die, ooh all right,
I was a little bit because I had the I don't think, well, that's not a spoiler. The bad guys ride them. I had a bristleback mount, and I keep accidentally killing it when I'm hunting
mm,
bristlebacks. So I keep
right.
losing my mount, and I've seen some enemies riding more interesting robots, but I have not unlocked those yet.
Oh okay, yeah. I only use the call mount option in the like left and right D-pad thing, and it calls one of those. What are it? Chargers?
Yeah,
Horses, essentially. It
yeah,
calls one of the chargers, and I'm like, yeah, that'll be fine. I can deal with
yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, and you can get the bristleback stuff. Like that'll be in one of the first cauldrons you go to.
Yeah,
So
I completed that very first cauldron, which is great. The cauldrons in the first game were great, and this one seems like it's very much the same thing, where it's kind of like a little bit of platforming, a little bit of puzzling, a little bit of cool, like, I'm riding a robot through a cool looking area. Oh no, a boss fight. Like that sort of. It doesn't seem like it's too different from the first one, but I kind of loved that stuff in the first one, so it returning is sort of like, yeah, all right, I need to
yeah.
find more of these.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still very in love with the game. I think the only reason I
Yeah,
haven't done the next story beat is because it sounds like it's going to take me to an area that I'm not like I assume since it's only a level 20 something mission will let me return from it, but I'm skeptical because of other
right.
games.
Yeah,
Um,
like, is this gonna be the ending thing that then afterwards it will spit you back in the world, of course, but maybe you're kind of locked
yeah.
into to finishing it.
Like I really doubt it because like there's enough story threads here that I think it can go for a little bit.
Hmm.
Because I still haven't like the things you find out about in Death's Door, like I have not found much more about, but
Oh wow, okay.
well, I guess I have. It just isn't quite as present as I'm hoping it will become. But
Yeah, nothing like in the first game where you climb that tower and you kind of find out the big story dump, and you're like, ah, okay, all right, now everything's
Yeah.
being explained. I see.
Yeah, I guess I did get a really good chunk of it. Like the more I think about it, but I
Hmm.
can't talk about any of it at all. So,
Right.
um,
Well, and I feel like I don't remember if the first game did this. I feel like it did, but I feel like this is very much one of those open world games where when you either get the final mission or you go to start the final mission, the game will be like, this is the point of no return. Make sure you have done everything. You know, like the thankfully that games do nowadays, where it's very much like, this is the end. You'll be well, you can come back, but you know, get ready for a bit of time here.
and this game is communicated so well in a myriad of other ways, like with Aloy talking to herself. Like, there's no
Hmm.
reason I should. I feel like it has not given me that warning.
Right, because you know Aloy will be like climbing a mountain. She'll be like, "All right, this is the final." That's my good Aloy voice. All right, solid snake here. Aloy is like, "All right, this is the final stand." You know, like
Yeah.
I
I
don't
think.
have a good Ashley Birch impression. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I think the other problem is like I have access to potentially purchasing orange equipment. Um,
Wow. Okay, I've like barely started finding blue stuff. I'm moving very
mm,
slowly.
mm. Well, and you'll graduate to purple fairly quick after that.
Oh, okay, nice.
And the orange stuff is few and far between. Like it's like arena prizes, which is part of the reason I keep playing arena.
Yeah, I had someone had said like, "Oh, you really want to start doing the arena because that's where you get the best gear." And I was like, "Well, I want the best gear. Like, why wouldn't I want? How many upgrade slots does the? Because you know when you start like the green armor, it has like 3 upgrade shields, and the
Oh
blue one has
yeah,
like 4. How much does
yeah.
the orange one have?
Well, I don't have an orange yet. I just have
Oh, okay.
the potential to buy one, and I keep like I just so before I was grinding arena and being fairly miserable doing it
Mm-hmm.
because you have to meet a certain time limit in the match
Oh,
to
jeez.
qualify for the arena medals, which you use to purchase things from the arena store, which has
Ah, okay.
a bunch of orange bows and armor. But I recently met a guy who declared. I guess he just, I don't know. He declared he wanted to make me armor, and it's very expensive, but I'm thinking I'm going to
Mm,
grind some of it out because he has 2
right.
orange armor potentials. So I figure I'll grab maybe one of those and then do the next story mission.
Well, I wonder if I just started that mission line because, like, as soon as you leave Chain Scrape at the beginning, you run into salvage
Oh, right. So
guy.
this is different than that.
Oh, okay.
I've been trying to prioritize the salvage stuff, and most of it is fairly um, inoffensive, I guess would be the word for
It's
it.
like go here, kill 3 machines. Go here,
Yeah,
loot a horn of this animal.
yeah,
That sort of. It feels very much like an MMO thing, which is
yeah.
it's fine. They're fine.
Yeah, I keep going back and forth on that one because I hit one. I think that was one where like go kill a slither thing and get this part off of it, and I'm like,
Hmm.
ooh, that's
That's
that is the
so
monster I dislike fighting most in this game.
right, right.
Uh, and the most recent guy, like it's all kind of almost radius to me. Like I'll look at, okay, this guy gave me a bunch of quests, but there's this tiny other quest I can go over here and do real quick, and most of like the side quests are 10 or 15 minutes. Like none of them
Yeah, they're pretty
pretty
short.
long. Sometimes you get some good story, some good characters out of it, but um, I do need to just finish up because I feel like that salvage quest line has to end in you getting armor because you,
Yeah, because you're like building this armor, even at the very beginning at like level 8, you're like collecting all this stuff to build this fancy armor. And at the end of it, he's like, all right, I'm going to go build it. And I was like, yeah, but do I get some? Okay,
yeah,
bye. And
like
the quest is like, go find more salvage people. And it's like, oh, this world is really big. Okay, I'll find some more peeps.
yeah, I, that quest like you have a bunch of okay for the audience that quest line is there's a guy, I can't remember if it's in Chain Scrape or somewhere else, but like he has all his salvagers kind of everywhere in the wild that are all competing to build him the best armor. And so you keep finding different little factions that you kind of go and collect for. And I feel like they can't all win. He can't choose all their armors.
Right. Right.
Where's that extra armor going?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm still pretty high on this game, even if the arena would be skippable if it wasn't for all that orange equipment, but like the purple equipment's pretty freaking great. Like, I have a bow that does like 240 like breakaway damage or something like that. Like,
wow.
I got is it a glow bow or a glow beam bow? It's something about a glow, and it's a bow, and it takes a little longer to fire than a regular bow. But like one of the ammo is literally like a tearaway bomb. So like you shoot it, and it waits a couple seconds, and then it blows, and it doesn't do much damage, but it usually breaks off the part that you hit.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it's also an expensive arrow to build in terms of materials you got to have offhand. So it's a little gauge your use of it, but probably my favorite bow in the game. It's the only purple bow I've maxed out so far in terms of leveling up. But anywho,
yeah, I love it. I don't there aren't enough nice things I could say about it other than I just want to keep playing this because everything I stumble on is either fun or cool looking, or it's a great boss battle, or it's like a fun little puzzle, or it's there's a million things to do in the game, but I never feel like I never feel overwhelmed, and I never feel like I'm being like essentially pushed into something, especially because you can, unlike a lot of other open world games, you can unselect a quest. So like you don't have to have an active quest in the game at all, and the game's just like, yeah, all right, yeah, like just do your thing, go crazy.
Yeah,
it's great.
And I make jobs for all the parts I need, and
yeah, I gotta start doing that because I want to get a bunch of like pouch upgrades, and I keep forgetting. A lot of them are like, oh, I need squirrel bones. Where are squirrels? If I just hit triangle, it will make a job, and it will tell me on the map. I should just go do that.
It's pretty great. Well, and occasionally you'll find like a flawless bone or skull or something, and there's some vendors you can trade that for whatever bones you're missing.
I did just find one where he's like, yeah, I'm selling these jay feathers or something for flawless skulls, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got some of those. All right, let's do it.
Yeah, and I forget the other material. Like the salvagers have a different exchange thing where you can get like robot parts that are rare.
Yeah, and those are like other robot parts will get you other ones.
I forgot. So they have there's a specific currency they use that you can accidentally sell because it winds up in your junk area. And when you read your junk descriptions, it'll say can only be sold or is used for upgrades or
I've been selling the ones that are only like these can be sold for shards.
So I sold the currency one early on in the game, and then later like I realized how rare that was, and I was real bummed about it, and I think I accidentally sold like a piece of my equipment. It's like, oh crap, and I went to the buyback menu and it was still there. Like,
wild.
I just bought them back. Like, this is literally like probably 10 or 15 hours of gameplay later. Like that buyback tab, if you accidentally sell something, it's probably still there.
Yeah, that's great. Wow. Okay.
So something to keep in mind, because I also started the game off with, I don't remember there being that many like weapons in the first game. I'm just going to buy everything I see, and that was a mistake.
Yeah.
There are too many weapons in this one. I just hit a vendor who literally had like a dozen purple bows, and I'm like, I can't. I have to be choosy now.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's probably all I should say about the game for now.
Yeah. It's great.
So that is all I have been playing. So what else you got, boss?
I have some Destiny 2. Shock of all shocks.
Nice.
The raid team and I have been going through the new raid, Valve the Disciple. We've made our way. The thing that's a little bit different about our group, the semi-serious raid group, if you haven't heard of us, is we only really get like 2 hours a week to raid. There's like all of us are in our kind of late 30s, early 40s. We're all parents. We're raiding on a Friday night, if that gives you any idea of what else we got going on in our lives.
Yeah.
So we usually only have like 2 hours to do a raid every week, which when you're learning a raid, that's usually not a lot of time to kind of raids aren't really trial and error, but it's a lot of like learning the experience through a little bit of failure of like, oh, okay, I should be doing this. Oh, that's where enemies spawn. Oh, these are the symbols we need to learn, that sort of thing. So we finally got to the final boss last night, and we finally kind of learned that encounter, but we kind of couldn't seal the deal at the end of the day. So we'll probably do that next week. But this new raid is really the probably the most mechanically complex raid in Destiny history that I think. I never played the final raid in Destiny 1. I never remember what the name of it is. So I heard that one was pretty complex too, but this one is really good so far. It takes place in a location that looks significantly different from everything else, which is really nice. Much like Deepstone Crypt, the one that took place on Europa. So it's kind of nice to see something totally different. You're fighting a bunch of enemies that are totally different. Like each one of the bosses is stuff you've never really seen. All the loot and everything is really great. Like it so far, it's a really great raid, and we're having a bunch of fun doing it. I did just today finish the title for Witch Queen. It's called Gumshoe, which is really great. It's like the whole thing behind Witch Queen is you're kind of doing this large scale investigation about how did the bad guy get some of our powers, and getting a Gumshoe title is pretty great for anyone that hasn't played Destiny. Title is essentially it's like an in-game badge saying that you've completed essentially everything for like a season or an expansion or a game type or something like that. So by getting the Gumshoe title, seal, whatever you want to call it, it's essentially like I've done the majority of things in the Witch Queen. And if it isn't the majority of things, it's kind of the hardest version of everything. So it very much is a badge of honor, because you'll see titles underneath character names, like player character names, when you're out and about. So you can say like, oh, here's this guy's name, and underneath it says Gumshoe. So he's kind of done everything in Witch Queen. My 23rd title in Destiny 2, which is too many. And probably this next week or the week after, I will have the one for the season, so that will be my 24th, which is also too many. Jeez.
Maybe they'll just make a title that is the number of your titles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the one I rock for a really specific reason is called Reckoner, and it's because I did all of the stuff for Gambit Prime in it's probably 2 years or so ago now, and I really rock it just to say like I did this nearly impossible thing in a game mode that nobody likes. I'm certified crazy. So like make sure if you want to invite me into your group, you're gonna know that I'm a little bit nuts. But Witch Queen continues to be great. There isn't a lot of stuff that's evolving with Witch Queen now, which is nice. Usually the game evolves after the first team clears the raid, which they did, and there's a whole bunch of new stuff. And actually, Bungie wrapped up the storyline for the season pretty early this season too, which is really nice. It was one big story beat each week for the first 4 weeks. And then it's kind of over until the end of next month is when season 16 is over. Which I know some people are grumbling out there, but most people don't play the game at the same rate that maybe myself or most of the people in my clan do, where we're kind of playing a little bit every day, and we're playing a lot on Tuesday usually. So like if someone hops in now or in a week or two and they buy the season pass, they can still do the story stuff. It's just like 4 weeks of stuff that you can kind of bang out pretty quickly. So it's nice that people can get in and see all of the seasonal stuff without having to be like, oh, you just bought the season pass. Oh boy, we have all this stuff to do. It's like, nah, just follow this quest line. It's like 20 steps, and half of the steps are, go to this area, watch this cool cutscene. All right, that was a step. Let's get this story. And the story beats that it told are some incredible cutscenes. It did another one of those drawing, kind of like, it almost looks like charcoal drawings on paper. Did another one of those cutscenes, and had a fairly big story beat at the end of it, which has some pretty interesting implications for the story going on, which is nice because they didn't used to do that, and now they're kind of. It's nice to see them hitting story beats throughout the year, as opposed to, here's a big expansion, here's your story, and then nothing for a year, and then here's another expansion. So it's pretty nice. You look like you wanted to ask a question.
Oh, no, I was scratching my head.
Oh, okay. All right. But yeah, that's largely what I've been playing this month. Tunic isn't an RPG, so it's just kind of like I call it a cute fox Zelda Dark Souls, which is it's a little fraction of each one of those things, where it's like not really a Zelda and not really a Dark Souls. It's very cute, that's for sure. But both my daughter and I really liked that. But that's not an RPG, so we can't really talk about it here. But we will talk about our news stories and releases. Start with releases here. Chrono Cross The Radical Dreamers Edition comes out. PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on the 7th. So this is a couple of things. It is Chrono Cross remastered, so they've kind of cleaned up a lot of the graphics. You can switch that off if you like the original stuff. Seeing some of the videos that they've released, I will probably play this with that stuff off, just because Chrono Cross is maybe famous for having these kind of painterly backgrounds, and I think some of them that they've shown that have been, AI upscaled and cleaned up look a little bit rough. So I'm glad they have the option to turn that off. They also have a completely reorchestrated soundtrack, so it sounds like it's all live instruments doing it. Some of the stuff that they've released has been very good. They did a really weird version of Time Scar, that intro track, which is very slow, which is certainly a choice. But it's also, they have finally translated, and they'll be releasing the Radical Dreamers kind of like visual novel text adventure thing that serves as a prequel to this game. That's also being released as part of this. So it's kind of a nice package, it seems.
I'm pretty excited to finally play Radical Dreamers.
Yeah, ditto. I don't think I've played Chrono Cross, since it came out. Maybe, what's that been, 20-something years maybe now? So I'm kind of...
So I've never technically played Chrono Cross. Like, I own it. I think I may have the strategy guide even, but it intimidates me because of the character count.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this version. I'm going to play through Radical Dreamers, and then if I play Chrono Cross, I may look at like things you should know before playing Chrono Cross FAQ, and just take note of whatever those things are, and then not worry about the rest and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, and the Chrono Cross, even on its original release, had a really good New Game Plus, which I feel like it almost had to after coming after Chrono Trigger. Yeah. But a lot of that stuff that you unlock in one playthrough will carry over to the other ones, including I think there's like 3 or 4 characters that you can only pick one of them per playthrough, and it makes it really easy to say, like, all right, you've got all these other ones, you want all the characters, just, speed run through this other one, pick the other one, and then you'll have all of them in your party. Cool. The only thing I would recommend people looking up is how to get the true ending. I'm not entirely sure how you're supposed to figure that out without looking it up. I know how you're supposed to do it. I don't know how you would get to the conclusion that you need to do that thing to figure that out. It seems nearly impossible.
That sounds like a PS1 game.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Where you just said, like, I think I have the strategy guide. It's like, yeah, that was the era of, like, here's this big RPG. You should probably spend the $15 and get the strategy guide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I bet that strategy guide is worth a lot more than $15 now. But
yeah, I wonder. I feel like I have that one too. I wonder where that is. It's in a box
it may not
here.
be. Just some of those old strategy guides, like, it's surprising how high they'll go.
Yeah, especially where they're like, we only made like 2,000 of these strategy guides, and the game turned out to be a hit. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Next up, we have Godfall Ultimate Edition. Comes out on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series consoles, and PC on the 7th. This is that looter slasher, I guess. I don't like the term looter shooter, but I will call this a looter slasher. You probably know about this game because it got not highly reviewed. And then they put out a free version of this, and then that turned out to just be the end game, which they gave you like a fully kitted out character and was like, all right, here's the end game. Go have fun. It's like, wait, what? So, I don't know. I have always been interested in this game. I think it has always looked kind of neat, but I'm not sure. I play Fortnite and Destiny 2. I feel like that's probably the 2 loot games that I really need to play until Diablo 4 comes out, I guess.
And like, this is Gearbox and someone else, right? Like,
yeah, Gearbox published it, and I don't remember what the developer's name is. But yeah, Gearbox published it. They don't have. I really wish Gearbox would do a better job at specifying, hey, we published this one, or hey, we developed this, because the difference between those two is, an ocean of interest for me.
Yeah,
to put it mildly. And last here, but we have 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim comes out on the Switch. Another game that I definitely need to play, and maybe I will just pick it up for Switch and play it in bed.
I feel like that's the way to play that game, because it is mostly reading.
I hope it runs well on Switch. It's one of those experiences where I would be surprised if it runs poorly, because not that it's a simple game, but it's not exactly like a twitchy action game or anything. So I don't know. I'm very interested to see how that one does. That could be a perfect platform. Let's move on to news stories. First up, we have a new Witcher game announced. CD Projekt Red has announced a new Witcher game that they are specifying is not Witcher 4. just to be 100% clear about it. It sounds very much like, hey, if you think you're going to play as Geralt, you're not. So the tagline to the game is "A new saga begins." So if you need further reinforcement on that. There is no details other than that, or release window, or anything. The only detail they gave is that they're not using their own internal engine this time after Cyberpunk. I feel like that's for probably pretty obvious reasons. They're going to use Unreal Engine 5, which for them seems like a pretty smart choice. I feel like they're going to make something pretty cool with UE5. And we actually talked about this on TVGP last week. Someone released a news story saying, like, it was about the Star Wars game that someone announced. I don't remember, maybe it was Ubisoft Massive. That was like, yeah, we're working on a Star Wars game. It's going to come out in like 2025. And they were like, very much like this. I was like, why are you announcing it now? And they had said, well, it's all about hiring, where it's like, all right, you probably want to work for CD Projekt Red. Sure, that would be interesting. What if you could work on a new Witcher game? It's like, oh, well, now you're talking. It's like, yeah, you could work for Ubisoft. That's probably fine. What if you wanted to work on a Star Wars game? It's like, oh, well, yes, I would like to do that. That would be great. So I thought that was an interesting timing for that news story when CD Projekt Red is like, we're making a new Witcher game. We don't know what's coming out or on what or who's going to star or anything, but we got a new one. So
yeah, they probably need some Unreal experts too. Like since they're shifting to that, like that makes a lot of sense. I have never thought about these game announcements from that angle. I just always assumed they were trying to beat people spoiling it, you know?
Right, or like start the hype engine up super early, where it's like, all right, we got 5 years, build this hype up, and it makes a lot more sense of like, hey, do you want to work on Witcher? We're making one of those.
Yeah, here's our. I mean, they've taken so much heat for Cyberpunk. Like, I feel like this is like no one's gonna want to work there because no one wants to go and fix Cyberpunk, right? Like, so
right, because like I feel like the enduring legacy of Cyberpunk is going to be. It's a game that eventually turned out fine, that seemed like it had massive promise, and was just crushed under its own engine's weight. Like it seems like a rat's nest of problems that they just couldn't fix. And I think that's what you just said was what I was thinking too. Where people, CD Projekt Red is like, we're hiring, and people are like, well, I don't want to fix. Cyberpunk. That's been a very publicly a terrible design thing. But now they got this new Witcher game, and the lead, the lead director on the Witcher game is like, we're definitely not doing any crunch. And it's like, well, UE5, I know that. Yeah, all right, now you're talking some cool stuff here. So I don't know. I think that could be really neat. It's been interesting to see CD Projekt Red do kind of a bunch of Witcher spin-off things, like they did the Thronebreaker and they did the Gwent game and they did all these kind of other things, but they're them coming back to kind of what I'm assuming is going to be an open world kind of traditional Witcher game is very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Next news story: Square Enix delays Forspoken by 4 months. I feel like Musim, you and I are probably like the only two people that are excited for Forspoken.
It looks so good. I don't know why everyone.
It looks really fun. Like IGN keeps releasing like every couple months. They're like, yeah, here's 25 minutes of gameplay, and I'm like, yes, this still looks really great. I'm zipping around. I'm using magic. This looks great. They have this statement they put out. Our vision for this exciting new world IP is yada yada yada. They just said they need a couple more months of polishing, essentially. So I think when you look at a lot of the videos they've released lately, it very much looks like it's still under development. And it's not like the game ever looked bad, but it's one of those things where like, yeah, you want to take 4 months. I think that will probably be good to just kind of, sand off the edges of it, make it kind of a bit more of a polished thing. Because I feel like with Square, the expectations of the market is pretty high, especially for brand new games. And I think not coverage, but I think people's reactions to Forspoken have been kind of down, surprisingly, ever since it got announced. So I feel like there's probably some pressure from Square to kind of come out of the gate really strong and just say like, all right, here's Forspoken. There's really nothing wrong with it. Kind of like a Stranger of Paradise. Like that came out and was like, all right, here's a great B-tier game. Nothing wrong with it. Go crazy. So
I feel like Forspoken, I don't know. I've really gotten the AAA like level of development impression on it, but maybe that's incorrect. Yeah.
Yeah. It very much like Stranger of Paradise, where it's like, it's not a Final Fantasy game. It's not Tomb Raider. It's not like kind of your showpiece games. I like to call them B games. People think that's kind of pejorative, but it really isn't. It's just kind of like, these aren't $100 million games. They might be $10 to $20 million games, and they might be 6 to 7 out of 10 as opposed to 9 out of 10. It's kind of like they are really good games. It's just not like you're not. It's not the graphics of Horizon Forbidden West. It's not like this is the best video game I've seen in my life. Wow. Like it's nothing
Yeah,
to that
no.
level.
It's honestly, I don't mind, man.
Yeah.
They have that Horizon Lego tall neck coming out in May that I want to buy, and I got a
I
trip
keep
there,
I
so
keep looking at that and thinking like, I love the tall necks so much, and I had to do something to the second one in the game that I didn't want to do. Thankfully, it's okay. Like I love those little tall guys. They're really great. I should buy that Lego tall neck. I don't have any Legos, but I got a little space over here. I'd put that guy over here.
I basically like I have a couple friends who are really into it, and I have a Lego Voltron, and he was fun to put together. And I'm not looking to get a new addiction, but if they want to hit franchises that I am willing to shell out money for, like Horizon, then let's do
Yeah.
it.
Oh, it's got a little alloy at the bottom.
Yeah,
It's $80. Woof. It's got a little one of those crawler things, and I never remember the machine names. I'm always like, oh,
yeah.
it's the one that looks like a weasel and it moves like a weasel.
The only ones I remember are the ones who consistently kill me.
Right, right. It's one of those snap
Screw
maws
claw
again.
rippers.
Yeah. Oh man. Um, where are my notes here? Okay, let's.
Sorry, my bad.
Sorry, I'm over at the Lego website, being like, oh
Lego
no, it's out of
hours.
stock. Oh, it's coming in May 1st. Oh no. Oh boy! All right, last news story here. Tokimeki Memorial has a fan translation now. The great white whale of Konami romance visual games, dating sims. I guess you would call them like the original super popular dating sim. Team has finally translated it. You can find that over at translated.games. That's the URL. I guess the elephant in the room here is they've translated the Super NES version, which is largely agreed to be kind of the weakest of all of them. Like the PS1 version's really good, the Saturn one's really good, the PC Engine one is really solid, but this one is kind of the weakest of them. It's not fully voiced like the other ones because it's on a cartridge. Had some frame rate problems, which they did resolve. They did put some of the voice acting in there actually, and they put like a whole animated intro too. So like they've done a pretty good amount of work to this game, and I know there are teams that are translating the PS1 version of the game, but it seems like that one is kind of a bear to crack open and get the text reinserted. But wanted to call that out because it's kind of a monumental thing for someone to have translated this game that people are looking forward to playing for like 30 years. So if you want to go do that, apparently it's very good. If you don't want to do that, I highly recommend Tim Rogers' video on Tokimeki Memorial. It is a little bit over 6 hours, but he does a really good job of chaptering it, so you don't have to sit there and watch the whole thing. But it's a really good primer on why Tokimeki Memorial is important, sort of like culturally and in dating sims. And then he goes through a couple of playthroughs where it's like, here's my first one, here's my 15th one, and here's like the ultimate playthrough where he kind of got the canonical good ending. But yeah, that's cool. Go check that over, translated.games. That's all our news stories, which means that's our episode for this month. If you'd like to visit us, you can do so at pickingupthepixels.com. Everywhere to find and follow us is on the right-hand side of the page. Don't forget about patreon.com/E1M1. The ones are numbers. If you can't support the show financially, totally understand. The best way to support anything you listen to or you watch or any artists you like or whatever, share that stuff on social media. Tell your friends about it. It's easily the best way to help out any, especially smaller content creators like us that you like. And rate us 5 stars wherever you listen. If you listen to podcasts somewhere that we aren't, please pass us a note. And I'll try and get us over there if I can. Musim, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find my music at axis23.bandcamp.com and musim, musim.bandcamp.com, and John Musim on Twitter.
There you go. You can find all my shows at e1m1.com. The ones are numbers. And I think that's it. So our adventure continues next month. Bye.
Bye.
I forgot to stop the video. Bye.